The EarSauce podcast.
Yo. This is a big, important podcast this week. This is our 10th podcast, 10th EarSauce podcast. How are you guys feeling about that?
Mate, I don't know where to start. I mean, when I first come up with the idea of EarSauce in this podcast, I didn't know how.
Wow. The biggest guy is the one as usual.
You heard it here first. I am the creator. But no.
Originator.
Jokes aside, no. I'm well excited, and I can't wait for the next 1,002 podcasts.
We'll be in it together, bro. Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
I'm looking forward to it too, man. But yeah, literally 10 episodes in, and we're not even the only big thing that's happened this week either. There's like a little voting contest happening across the pond. But before we get to that, I think it's important that we give some really vital information for our listeners that they all be begging to hear. Basically, I'm not sure if you guys knew this, but EarSauce has an Instagram page. Manny, could you tell us what the Instagram page is?
Yes, Matt. Thanks for handing it over to me. So the Instagram page is EarSauce _ and the Twitter handle is EarSauce _ also. We look forward to engaging with you all on those platforms. Thank you very much.
And this just in, I'm just getting some key information. We also have a YouTube as well. Manny, do you have any information on this?
Yes, I do actually. Yeah. Typing the EarSauce podcast show on YouTube. Have a listen there, or you can listen to us on all major platforms. Give us a shout out on one of these platforms. We'd love to hear from you. Back to Matt in the studio.
Socials as well. I am on Instagram. That is at Mr_Matty Lee, and on Twitter that is at Mr. Matty Lee. Oliver, Manny, Faria, have you got anything you'd like to share in that spot? In that space?
My Twitter is at OC_Clark _10. That's about it for me.
Yeah, just follow me on Twitter, Emmanuel Yates 90 on Twitter. Love to hear from you guys.
I'm not sharing anything because I'm still apprehensive about receiving dick pics, so...
Fair enough, understandable. So yeah, like I was saying, Manny, your boy won over in the States. Your guy.
Yeah, no, it's been a long road. It's been a long road for the old Biden campaign, you know. No, I'm joking. No, to be honest, that's good news for America. It's not really and truly. It doesn't have a major impact on us over here in the UK, but it felt.
I'd argue that it actually does. To be honest with you, I think that American foreign policy has a big impact globally. So having Donald Trump in charge was crazy. To be honest, so
I agree. Impact. But on a day-to-day basis, Americans aren't controlling our taxes, right? That's what I mean. So it was 4 years ago when Donald Trump got announced as president. I think it happened. Was it shortly after Brexit or around the same time?
Around the same time.
I think
I would say to you, Manny, I'm sorry to cut you. Thank you to our Ghanaian correspondent there, Emmanuel. Let me just quickly give you my. Yeah. I'll say to you that I feel like if you look at that time, this isn't even a political podcast, so I don't even know how we're getting that deep into it.
Let's get into it.
If you look at that timeline of that 3 years, and you look at the rise of the far right in Europe, that's come off the back of Donald Trump, a far right leader, essentially come to power in America. It really emblazoned. It made these racists essentially. It made them very brazen and confident to come out in the open. So I do feel like.
Sorry, go ahead.
I do feel like there is a big impact there. And also, I want to say as well, to tie this back to the music, I noticed that, or I saw that YG and Nipsey Hussle's song "Fuck Donald Trump" that went back to number 1 in America straight after Biden won the election. That was really pleasing to hear.
That was a monumental moment, to be honest.
Honestly, that song was very powerful when it came out, and the fact that people turned to it at the time of celebration was great to see.
I wanted to address the implications of the American election for the rest of the world. Having a pseudo-fascist in power in somewhere like America, which obviously we have a special relationship, it does have a trickle-down effect, unfortunately, through their foreign policies. And not just here. For example, Manny, you and I are Ghanaian, and we both know that there is this evangelical movement that comes from America that sort of seeps into our culture and interferes with our political systems in places like Ghana, in a lot of African countries. It's a form of neo-colonialism. And who the leader of that country is does determine, how these things do trickle down into other countries. I just want to kind of sort of, in a layman's way, kind of put that forth to you. It affects culture. It does affect economies. It affects everything, because for example, at the moment, our Brexit, the implications of Brexit have been heavily affected by this election. So our current government doesn't even know where it stands with the new American
administration.
Thank you, the administration, exactly. So it is going to have huge implications because the changes that are going on there, it's in the next few months, it's going to have a huge impact on the UK. That's it. That's all I wanted to say.
I absolutely agree with that. But on a lighter note, did you see this thing about number 10? They sent a congratulations message to Joe Biden for winning the election. God. But they literally just edited a post that they were going to send congratulating Donald Trump, and you can actually see where they made the changes on the image. Anyway, our government is a joke.
That is so ridiculous.
We can make a whole different podcast for that. Let's get back to some going-ons in the music industry.
But I never actually got to finish what I was saying.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So going back to the timeline, right? We had Brexit, and then we had the election of Trump. Being a black person in this world, it kind of felt very weird, especially after 8 years of Obama. And over the course of the last 4 years, it's kind of had to put that fascism grew, to the point where a lot of, as you've said, Matt, people were emboldened to kind of show their colours and their views against minorities and people of colour.
Absolutely. Over here, you've had Dave and Stormzy both putting out songs. Beyond them two, there's been so much going on in that space, so it's been great to see. And I feel like although we have had a lot of the negatives that have come from this rise in fascism, we've also seen a lot more pride being shown in people of colour.
Agreed,
and them feeling more confident to be who they are. And I guess people that are not of colour starting to gain a better understanding of
I think we're living in very precarious times, actually, because I think it's much easier to backslide into fascism and ultra right-wing administrations and governments than people think. So, I mean, we'll see where things go, but right now, with the rise of the right as we've seen it, I think we're up for some scary times ahead. I think we have gone backwards a little bit, and we are having to fight again. And I am optimistic, but it's been a bit sad to see this. I mean, even when Biden won recently, it wasn't by the massive landslide that was being predicted, and I think that speaks volumes as to where we are.
But then equally, I kind of feel like for every action, there's an equal opposite reaction. So in this instance, I think the last election took us by surprise, whereas in this election, everyone was woke. Everyone knew what time it is, and everyone still knows what time it is. They won the war, but there's a battle that's still ongoing, and so much has happened. One last thing I want to touch on is if Trump wasn't in power, I doubt we would have seen the BLM movement have such support, and you wouldn't have seen it spark the youth across the globe. But because we were in such tense situations across the world due to race, like that kind of lit the spark, and now we have an administration that acknowledges that and has vowed as one of their mandates to tackle systematic racism. So you can only feel optimistic at this point, but obviously shitty stuff is still going to happen, especially across the pond. You're still going to have black men murdered by figures of authority. A lot of work needs to be done, but at least it feels like you can hold this government to account. That's all I have to say.
I was reading the interwebs the other day, and I actually saw like a controversial point where somebody said that Trump has done more for black people than Obama did in his 8 years, or 8-year term. And the reason why they said that is because of how blatantly racist he is and how brazen he is with it. And that has obviously had a knock-on effect of what you're talking about. So, some food for thought.
I just want to say, I agree, it's a really positive time, especially with the growth of the Black Lives Movement, across the Western Hemisphere. Wait, is that the correct term? Well, anyway, point being, I just don't want to see people become complacent because now Trump is out and that's it. We're still at the beginning of this. And pushing forward. And just because Joe Biden is a Democrat, that does not mean he actually knows what black people need, what people of color need. And I'm waiting to see action, not just words. I really want to see something come out of this that we haven't seen before for the black community. So we'll wait and see.
I echo that, and I also say it's not just an American thing. We've got fuck the government, fuck Boris. There's a key parts of it as well. Stormzy said it first. But yeah, anyway, back to the music. Where shall we start? I think that
so going back
Manny had
to
something to discuss about some recent
I feel like
happenings.
in the US, you always have
stateside.
like a massive step forward, then 2 steps backwards. I don't know what it is about this year, but a lot of talented hip-hop artists are losing their lives in the States. And it's all for like random reasons, like substance abuse, murders, like just avoidable situations. And in this case, like America lost an up-and-coming artist by the name of King Von. I believe he was a Chicago-based drill rapper. He lost his life in an altercation. Some people are saying that it's by a rival of his. Other people are saying he got killed by the police. It's all very senseless, to be honest. I'm not going to pretend to be absolutely familiar with this artist, but equally it does sadden me, if that makes sense. So yeah, I just wanted to raise awareness to that. Like, I think America just does have a problem with its up-and-coming artists putting themselves at risk for no reason.
It's a mad one, because what I understand is that this guy, it's an issue between 2 sets, right? Not 2 sets of gangs, but almost like between 2 record labels here. And King Von has an issue
Allegedly.
with NBA Youngboy, I believe it was. Quando Rondo is a rapper that is signed to NBA Youngboy, and allegedly Quando Rondo and King Von had an altercation in Atlanta. Now, what's crazy about this is that these guys are from Chicago. They bucked up in Atlanta. It's a state that's quite a distance away from their hometown, and they've managed to get into it there. And I think to myself, like, these young men have been blessed with a talent or a following or whatever you want to call it that's allowed them to transcend the hood. They don't need to be in a bando anymore. They've got jewels, they've got money, they've got cars, they've got clothes, and they have a lot of women as well. They have all the sort of things that you could hope for to distract them from life on the street. Yet they always saw the need to put that first, and I totally understand that hood mentality of like your pride has to kind of come first. Your name has to matter. You can't allow you can't allow things to run in a certain way because it will reflect badly on you, and I totally get that. But sometimes I feel like these guys have to learn that, you know what, yeah, this beef ain't even worth it because I can just get to the millions right now, or I can just die over something that ultimately doesn't matter. And I think that then I understand that it's easier said than practiced, but at some point they need to like learn how to make a full clean cut from that gang life and move on. I'll give you an example of someone that's done it, right? Chief Keef. Chief Keef was one of the worst out of all these guys. Obviously, he's one of the original drill artists, so he came out a little while back, but he was one of the worst of these guys that was literally living life in the streets and doing a madness. But things got so hot for him in Chicago that he moved to LA. And he doesn't go back to Chicago anymore. And he's for the most part, managed to steer clear of beef. The biggest beef he's had in recent years, really, actually got to like, a real physical situation was between him and 6ix9ine. And even then, he wasn't an aggressor. In fact, he didn't really do anything in that except for say a few words, which was just backing himself. Like, obviously, everyone knows that 6ix9ine is a troll anyway, so I feel if he is able to make that sort of move in his life to kind of stop himself from being in that sort of negative situation, I feel like I would have to probably try to, where possible, kind of learn from him.
It takes like,
and try to
not just
essentially
rappers,
follow suit where possible.
The listeners as well to like usher in this change. So the rappers need other rappers to help to educate them that this isn't the life. You need to like transition away from this if you want to like obviously live a fruitful life and enjoy your riches. But also us as listeners, we need to stop glorifying this sort of culture, in my opinion anyway. I feel like we glorify the violence and stuff like that far too much, and people put too much.
I get that totally, but then to me, I feel like pretty much my whole life I've grown up on gangster rap, right? And like, yeah, I know the upbringing might have allowed me to not even need to gang life. I'm not going to dispute that, but I feel like what's happening nowadays is just completely crazy, because when I was hearing the gangster rap as a younger person, when the rappers spoke about beef and shooting someone or whatever, it was always over something.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say worthwhile, but there was some depth to the violence, if that makes sense. There was some reasoning towards it. Whereas nowadays, like, it just seems to me like these younger artists and younger people in general just seem to
straight away as well
resort to maximum violence for the smallest trigger point, and it's crazy. And I just hope that at some point that these younger men and women too, the women are involved in it very much so too, that they learn there's other ways of dealing with situations, and that hopefully, especially the ones that I've got things to lose. Like, I can understand when you literally got nothing going on in your life, so you kind of just resort to a madness. But when you actually millions coming your way, you have to find a way to come to a middle ground with people that you're beefing with and just let it go, because
he's sort of left it, and he can still go back, and it's fine. But he doesn't need to dabble in that sort of lifestyle no more.
That game of 50, yeah.
It's like this.
Look at Young Jeezy and Gucci Mane. Gucci Mane one of Young Jeezy's boys. It doesn't get any deeper than that. But Young Jeezy didn't go himself and try to get him back. I think he did have a couple of square offs in a couple of clubs, and from my understanding, it kind of seemed like Young Jeezy wasn't really on it to that same extent. But regardless of that, this is all alleged, of course. but regardless of that, they are both now still living, still multi-millionaires, still doing really well in life. Whereas they could have just got pointed by, it just became a running up between the two of them in Atlanta, and they both could have been gone. So that's what I mean. Like, they in that older generation, they were able to find some sort of understanding to move on.
There, Matt. Like,
whereas these younger ones, they just like, it's not over till you're dead.
Being gangster has always meant to be gangster. From Al Capone and the Valentine's Day Massacre, like where, do you know what I mean? Where tales of gangsterness like has always propelled men from nobody's to legend status. If you look at people like Escobar, these are people on different levels because of their notoriety. And notoriety within music helps push album sales. If we 6ix9ine, for example, right? Before he gained the title of Snitch, it was his notoriety, his image of being perceived as someone that was from the block, on the block. Do you know what I mean? But
this is what I'm saying to you. Like, what does 6ix9ine actually do?
Yeah.
6ix9ine himself did absolutely nothing. He never pulled a trigger on nothing. Like, that's my point. You can portray an image without actually being a trigger man, without actually going out there and being on the front line. I don't know exactly what happened in this King Von situation, but I can only assume that he was probably standing at the front of a crowd of people when you don't need to do that. When you are that guy, you don't need to do that. It's like when they say, "Oh, if you're in a crew of people and there's a star in your crew, that guy should not be carrying a gun. He should not be carrying any drugs. He shouldn't be in possession of anything that could detract his career. Someone else takes it. That's how it goes."
Speaking on the situation, King Von's manager was speaking on the situation. Essentially, what he said is, everything happened very quickly. Like, apparently he wasn't. So you see, when you're on a night out and you have a friend, like, sometimes that could potentially be like an aggressor or is in a foul mood situation. Sometimes talking doesn't even help. If that person's of the frame of mind of causing trouble, what can you really do? Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that was his frame of mind, but from watching the interview, like, the manager stated that all of this situation happened rather quickly, and he lost control of the situation, and it resulted in the death of his artist and friend, which was tragic. Do you know what I mean?
Do you guys think that social media has something to do with this? Because, you were talking about the culture with the old heads versus what's going on right now. I mean, for me,
absolutely it does.
Back in the day, I think people were genuinely trying to come out of the hood, so to speak. So you made your money and the idea was you wanted to be upwardly mobile. Whereas now, in order to make the money, you have to constantly be putting on this show of this persona of being gangster all the time. Do you understand? We know that gangster rap is highly consumed by young white males predominantly. And we have to talk about what social issues are we dealing with as a community that means that even when our young people are finally making money out of these negative experiences, they are still unable to become upwardly mobile, remove themselves. What is that institutionalized way of thinking as well, that they cannot stop behaving like this too? Do you get what I'm trying to say? It's not just one thing, it's various things that breed these issues. So
I do. I do see it, and to answer your question, to answer what you're saying as well, to add more to your point, I want to circle back to what Manny said about Al Capone being a big gangster and the Valentine's Day Massacre and all that now. So, just two things I want to point out here. One, Manny, when you talked about that Al Capone thing, right? Al Capone was a career criminal, so he made his money from being a criminal. That was his main source of income. Same thing with Escobar and same with El Chapo, whatever. So these are not the same. It's not the same as being a recording artist where your main income is from making music. Yes, the music you make is a byproduct of the life you lived.
I guess the reason
but you don't have to continue living that life to continue making the music.
Is
that's one thing.
Lean on a gangster image to sell records. Like, there's no point. Like, 50 Cent doesn't sound the same as when you got shot 7 times. Do you know what I mean? And that's not to suggest that 50 Cent shouldn't have evolved.
Because he's not hungry anymore.
50 Cent is a role model. Do you know what I mean? Like, for all that he's achieved. However, his music back then and his music now are two different kettles of fish. But that's because 50 Cent used to rap on a subject matter that he doesn't live anymore. Does that make sense?
Guys don't make money off of record sales anymore. It's all about continuing to tour and merchandise and so on, which means constant promotion, which means you have to keep up this image heavy.
Yeah, it's all about their brand.
So,
Yeah, we spoke about how when someone is consuming the content, what are they actually consuming? So, you know, like one of the best, or for me anyway, one of the best genres of movies is those Italian gangster movies, like The Godfather, stuff like that, right? Now, when we go and watch one of those movies, we accept that that is all fictional. So, and that we enjoy it as a fictional tale. Now, for some people, when they listen to music, they don't know what is real and what isn't. But I know from how I listen to music, I do appreciate when I either know for a fact or I believe that what the artist is saying is something they've lived in their own life, or someone is close by to them. So, for example, when I listen to music from someone like T.I., especially with his older music, where he's talking about how much he was in the streets, I believe that. 50 Cent, I believe what he says as well. I believe a lot of what the game says, although I understand that some of it is probably a bit inaccurate, more based on what his brother lived. And I think it's similar to like what Kendrick Lamar has, where he says his friends were Bloods, and he even says it in the songs, it's not me that lived this stuff, it's just almost the stories of my friends have lived. So I get that, and I get that people want to consume those stories, because I like hearing these gangster stories. Everyone likes hearing these gangster stories, but no one likes to see their favorite rapper shot dead. So people need to find the balance between what is real and what is not, and understand that you can't even be rapping about your real life like that, because you're hearing rappers are going to prison all the time nowadays for.
Can I just point out how the language
being caught out for the stuff that they rapped about?
Can I just point out how the language?
So they rap about something in such detail,
back in the day when rappers would
and then they get
talk
caught
about
out for by the police. This is crazy.
They used to say, "I used to have to do this. I had to do that to survive, etc." But now it's, "I'm doing this right now because it's cool." There's a huge difference in the way this stuff is talked about now in music as well. You know, it is glorified the way it wasn't.
Yeah.
So can I also just
and that's
ask,
what they
you know, I mentioned about the
prison.
sort of way in which people are raised to be institutionalized, because I'm pretty sure King Von went to prison, didn't he? I think. But this kind of behavior always makes me think of Adrian Broner. You know, because he's someone he has huge potential. He can make so much money, and he was in the news just this week for his. He's broke now, and he's always in and out of like court every week. Do you know what I'm saying? Because despite all his success, he cannot change the way he lives. Like, it's so hard for him.
It's actually a joke,
you know. And I think it is hard for some of these guys. It doesn't matter how much success they have, how much money they make. It's very hard for them to change.
They say fame is a drug, isn't it? Like, it's addictive to want to be in the limelight.
Broner's got no money, though. I think he's being clever.
Yeah.
I don't think Broner's got no money, though. I think he's being clever. I think he's doing 50 Cent.
And then get a
couple of years ago, 50 Cent filed bankruptcy, and he went to court in a smart car. What then? I think like a year later or 2 years later,
really
he was filling up the front trunk of a Lamborghini with cash. So
was broke. Like, how would we know? Do you know what I mean? Because we only know what's presented to us. Adrian Broner's fame and claim was being a boxer, and when was the last time he boxed? Do you know what I mean?
I will say this though, right? Boxers of Broner's standard that he was at before, because he was a world champion, they make a lot more money than your average rapper. Broner would have been getting millions per fight, not tens of millions, but maybe $1 or $2, $3 million a fight, which is good money. And someone that's like a decent level rapper is not getting that in a year. Just a decent level. Obviously, your stars do get money. That. Your megastars get way more, but
he's got a
your average rapper's not clearing $3 million a year.
Yeah.
that's the thing as well, that regardless of what status you are in a game, you still have to, especially in gangster rap, not all forms of rap require this. So, for example, Chance the Rapper earns a lot of money, but his image isn't that he has to have diamonds all over him. Where you have like a mid to low tier rapper that's probably just coming through, but he'd be just dripping in all the diamonds everywhere. And sometimes it's not even their own jewelry that they wear. Sometimes they're lucky enough to be like in a crew where someone else has money. Sometimes they borrow or rent jewelry from a shop, and sometimes they just make themselves broke and buy it themselves. But a lot of it is image, and a byproduct of maintaining the image is the violence that we see, and which is causing us to lose
old music today, because I'd never really listened to him before. And I was struck really by his ability to tell stories. The effort that was, put into his storytelling, it was really, he really cared. It was his craft, you can tell. And his stories were all about living that life, like very explicitly, And I wonder what things would have been like for him had he put his energy into something else, because he was talented for sure. So it is very sad.
That's the thing as well, right? When you, something I've always thought to myself is, like they say, people like Kendrick Lamar, Jay-Z, and I'm sure there are other rappers that will go into this category. They could have. They're so good at poetry, essentially. They're so good at rap that they could be scholars, or at least they're better than many scholars even. And this is a whole different topic here, because we're going to start to go into the whole educational system and stuff like that. Clearly, some of these rappers should have been people that were able to excel academically, at least in the form of English literature or whatever. But for whatever circumstances they found themselves in as young people, they weren't given the platform to do that.
Not a lot
and so they funneled their talents into rap, and then they became good at it. But I know for sure, for example,
it's as simple as that.
That's right. Like I know after Nipsey Hussle passed away, I heard a lot more about his childhood, and apparently he was a really talented and really gifted child. But if he was brought up in a different environment rather than being around Crips all the time, maybe he would have gone on to become some sort of academic. Who knows what he would have gone to be. But instead he had to turn to the street life, and he channeled his intelligence into rap music. So, yeah, I always say everyone's a product of their environment ultimately. And
let's talk about why it's easy to accept for so many people, including within our own community, Black young men hurting other Black young men. And, a lot of scholars have talked about this in the past. It's because we've been taught to hate ourselves. So when you see the mirror of yourself walking down the road, you don't value that life, because you don't value your own life in the way that you should, because society hasn't given you the opportunity to do that. It's told you are valueless your entire life.
There's a very good line that summarizes this, and that is, how are you going to win when you ain't right within? And I think that is a perfect opportunity to leave this topic of death and then go to gangster rapping gigs.
Wait, was it an album or was it a...
Hollow Man dropped us a... My God, it's the same thing. It's all new beats. It's all new production. There's no remixes or nothing on there. That is an album, but it's a mixtape only for contract purposes. But anyway,
album a lot. Apart from, I think it was when A-Star come on. Like track 8.
What's your beef with A-Star, man?
You know what?
A-Star's a G.
I was going to say between track 8 or whatever, but no, the track after that was sick. I just didn't like the A-Star track. I really don't like A-Star. I don't like his accent. I don't like how he's offbeat.
A-Star, if you want to know where
Can't
he
even do
lives,
that. Is he from
DM
Liverpool?
me and I'll drop his postcode.
He's from wherever you're
No
going to be at tomorrow, mate.
No disrespect. Like, I think his bars are good. It's just I can't get on board with the accent and his slightly offbeat and nonchalant delivery. I just can't get
The
on.
thing is, you need to get on board with it because the North are running rap right now in the UK hip hop.
The Midlands, not the North.
Yeah. To be fair,
look at it.
Yeah, no, yeah. I do like it. Yeah,
I like H.
as well.
I do love H though. I'm not gonna lie. I do love H.
He's from Manny.
And also
A lot of
Bugsy
boys
yeah,
as well.
Midlands, yeah.
And what's that lady?
Bugsy's from Manchester.
They have energy. I feel like A-Star, he's just a bit too flat for me. No, I'm not saying he's got
I'm gonna send you. I'm gonna send you a couple A-Star tracks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, send them.
Get with it.
Send them and then convert me. So when Matt DMs in my address, we can like chop it up in it.
Yeah.
You know what? Man wasn't a fan, but obviously you spit like this. You spit like this, young blood. Listen, you can go places. But no, I'm not going to be her next week's pod. I'm joking. But no, the album's really good.
Okay,
There's a lot of
so
flavors
go on.
in this album. There's a lot of vibes. I keep saying album, it's a mixtape. But it's really good. It's really good, really good. I like the track with DeMarco as well. That came with a little. Yeah, that came with a little something like it put a little bit of pip in my step.
Yeah, that's a hard song. Everybody did.
Put a little bit of something in me. And then Dave.
And girls like, who's like rough around, I can't speak for every woman, but I know a few who find him very appealing because he's quite rough around the edges. And he's
What is this behaviour?
Put in?
No, I'm joking.
But it's like, it's not.
Wait, did you just say that you really find the Voidman aspect appealing?
Say it louder so the people at the back can hear you.
No. Hold on. Let me explain myself.
I need to interject as well. This whole podcast is about to be a massacre.
I'm in this. No, you're taking it. No, you're not letting me explain. Let me explain. So, okay. So it's nice to know a guy can handle himself. When you're like, yeah, he can handle himself, whatever. And we all know what South guys are like as well. So.
Can I interject as well, right? I think a week or two before King Von died, his good friend, she's a female rapper as well. She likes her men with a couple bodies.
No. That's not what I'm saying. Yeah. I'm saying you just like the guy.
So this is what happens. That's all I'm saying.
You can handle
I'm gonna chill. I'm going chill.
Aggressive. It's very, very different things. And Giggs is somebody who is clearly assertive. He asserts himself, right? And it comes across in his music, and it's appealing. It's nice. My favorite track on the whole thing was Debonair, and
that track was sick. That was my standout.
Wasn't it sick, right?
For a minute.
And I was thinking to myself, see, Giggs makes some really sexy music, right?
Debonair's nuts.
That I find, and I know a lot of girls find very appealing. I think he should make an album for the girls. Just call it like Gangster Love Music or something.
No, yes. I think he could. I think he could.
He definitely could.
It had to be like 5 tracks long.
That would make him seem too soft.
Yeah, why not? For Valentine's Day, for the ladies.
No. And then it had to have one track, one gang.
It's Debonair. Yeah, so sometimes
Giggs' idea of a love song is
a girl
Monster.
wants, isn't it? So
she wants to get a Monster. Like not those soft tracks, bro.
God. No, my point being,
I know, girls always want the monster. I know
different
that,
strokes for different folks, and I think there is
that's what
a
we're talking
market
about,
for a
right?
gig
They need to be
sexy time music album.
I said sexy time, you know. I said
appreciate there probably are different strokes for different folks. I don't think that
All right.
gigs be making an album for the
On that
slow,
note.
deep strokes constantly. You said your favorite song is Debonair, right?
Let me see. Oh
Okay,
yeah, I want to call it.
Don't give your rating yet, though.
That was it. If he makes the album, it'll be called Grown and Sexy. I like that. He came with some grown and sexy energy.
Yeah, so Debonair was my standout until I heard Straight Murder, and then I just had to give it to that. Just so we know.
We often talk about legends of grime, but we rarely talk about like legends of UK rap. Giggs is one of those legends. Like, let's put that out there. Do you guys agree or not agree?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and that often goes understated. And I kind of feel like
100 on
was
that,
a
100.
pioneer in his own right, because UK rap wasn't cool before Giggs came on the scene.
He made it mainstream.
Yeah, like if you're talking the hardest, like that. Unless you guys think So Solid was rap, I think it was garage, right? Like,
It was.
Talking the Hardest kind of made, when that came on, yeah, go on. I feel like you're itching now.
Can I? So I'll say, I just want to say, I feel like So Solid Crew with the beat they made, it was a fork in the road for UK music. Like what the music they were making wasn't garage music really, because garage music is more light-hearted. I feel like what they were making was a bit more towards.
I feel like
beginnings
a lot of
grime, should I say?
Like, oh no.
So I get what you're saying, but I still feel like that still constitutes UK rap.
So the crew, but they were like strictly garage. But there was like a lot of tracks that if you're not going to call them garage, they were heavily grounded in it. And I appreciate they were like at the point of a transition period in urban music for the UK, but I would still classify them as garage personally.
Yeah, so like going back to what I was saying, with Giggs has opened a lot of doors in that respect. So that's why for me, I'm not surprised when he drops a surprise mixtape. Not many artists can do that, and there's a lot of fanfare behind it. Like the strength of his features alone shows how big of a superstar he is. Like A Boogie, was it A Boogie with the hoodie? Like he sounded really good. George Smith sounded amazing. Like he even had like artists like DeMarco. Like these are legends from the Caribbean as well, like coming over to support Giggs. My favourite track on the album, of course, was Debonair as well, because the production value was amazing. I believe it was produced by Cool and Dre, and they work a lot with Rick Ross and Fat Joe, if I'm not mistaken. I kind of feel a bit disappointed with Debonair in the sense that if it had a Rick Ross feature on there, like that would just be like, wow, it would be so good. But it is what it is. So yeah, that's me anyway.
Okay, cool. So let me have my say on this. Right, my view on Giggs is that Giggs is a very big artist in the UK. As you said, he's one of the founding fathers of UK rap, and he's a legend in the game. And he's a legend that absolutely deserves his place. So definitely echoing what you said about Manny. However, I feel that I feel that say hit and miss is incorrect, but I feel like when he has opportunities to climb to another level of success, of relevancy, or whatever, of fame, he doesn't always take it. So if we remember a few years back, but it's like, 2016, 2017 times, I think it would have been. Maybe even 2018. Giggs was riding off his friendship with Drake. I don't say he needed it, but he had it. He was on Drake's album, doing his, the Batman, whatever. And he had an opportunity at that point to really just level up and become a bigger star and maybe even increase his presence in America. Didn't quite. And I feel like part of the reason was that the music he released during that period wasn't of a high enough standard. There wasn't enough hits in there. When I say hits, I don't mean pop hits. I mean hits that, everyone on the streets was like listening to it. He had like one or two songs, but it wasn't enough to maintain a steady level of progress to say, Giggs is part of a sick album and everyone's loving it. I think probably the best project he did around that period of time was Welcome to Them.
Yeah, Welcome to Them was
Big Bad. Although it had a big hype when it came out, it didn't live up to it. It really came out of a whimper. When he's come to this project now or never, I like this way of releasing projects, because I think if you are a big enough artist, you do not need to be dropping singles and lead up times and we're dropping in 2 months, 1 month, 2 weeks, 1 week. You don't need all of that. If you're a big artist, just drop the album. That's it. Drop it. Everyone's going to go and flock to listen to it. So when I found out about the Giggs album, I listened to it immediately. Everyone did. Now, the quality of it is just sick. And I feel like Giggs knew which songs had the best beats on the album, because every song with an amazing beat, like, all the beats are good, but once it had an amazing beat, he made sure it had a long intro before he started rapping. I really appreciate that. Like, so Debonair, that's got like a nice little intro there before he actually gets into it. And then Debonair is like a bit of a softer track, but it's followed up by a harder track, like 100 Raps with Kais. Kais is someone I know that's been around Giggs for a little while, but I didn't really take much interest in him. But I listened to his album the other week, and that album was very good, and it was good to hear him again on Giggs' album. It delivered. Manny mentioned Everybody Dead being a sick track. I agree. I'm working with Georgia Smith. That is a really nice track as well, and I think that will end up becoming like a radio single, because Georgia's big over here. She's kind of big over in America as well, like, or at least she's well known because she dated Drake, and she's a very talented singer as well. But honestly, the standout song for me on this album, and it's not even, I don't even know if it's fair to give it to it, because it's not even the whole song, it's half the song. But Straight Murder with, like, I believe that Dave delivered one of the best verses in 2020. He just was on fire.
The from South,
the whole
really well.
track, the whole half of the track, for like 2.5 minutes, just spitting grease. Yeah. It was mad. Like,
yeah. And a dumb raving bar.
Yeah, he always talks about landmarks of South London and places that we frequent, so it always makes it easier for us. I know that always, when I was to like my West Coast rappers, I'm a fan of West Coast rap, but I've never been to LA. I've never been to the places where they talk about. So when they're talking about like being on Watts or whatever, I've never been there, so I can't relate to it. But when he's talking about when you see the Aston and Vale, they don't know if it's me or Humber who obviously said it was, but I just drive through there, like. But yeah, anyway, so the song's called Straight Murder, and Dave murdered his half for the song. And I feel, to be honest with you, Giggs should have gone first on that song, because Dave's verse is so good, you don't actually want to hear Giggs' after. And Giggs' verse is actually decent, but Dave murdered him on that. And I think Dave did the same thing on Welcome to Them as well. What song was it again?
Yeah, I just want to...
Pellegro, that's what it was, yeah.
So
Dave murdered him on that track as well.
Dave's and how he kind of dropped off album-wise. During that period, it was like a 2 or 3 year period where if you had Giggs as a feature, he was literally going to spin you on that track. Like, he was doing it with everyone. And I feel like doing this album with Dave, because I've never seen that happen to Giggs.
And so then that's why we had so much expectation from his own album.
Like, in fact, he was doing it from that tune he had with Skepta. So from then he's been like spinning everybody on the feature. So yeah.
See how this happens. I just think to myself that Giggs is so talented. He can be like he already is a big guy in UK rap circles, but I feel like he could. he could cross over without actually selling out. I think he could become big enough, especially nowadays where you are seeing artists that are making authentic music to who they are, not selling out and still getting top 10 in the UK charts easily. I think Gigs to be one that does that, but hits number 1. So it'd be interesting to see how this one does actually in the charts. I don't see chart success as any sort of indication of quality.
It's funny because I actually thought that only about a third of the album was that good.
I do think that Gigs is someone that should be bigger than he is.
You know, I felt like Debonair and the other, like my top 3, number 1, Debonair, number 2, 100 Reps, and number 3, I'm Working. And I felt like they really carried the album as well.
I like that track, Don't Be Shy, as well. I thought that was a banger. Obviously,
yeah, that was alright.
It was.
Yeah.
But I don't think there were more than like maybe 5 tracks on it that I'd listen to again.
As well, right? Gigs is a massive Dragon Ball Z fan, right? And early, you remember that time we went to the cinema to watch one of them, and Gigs was there, I think with his son. And I think that when the other ones came out, I saw it on his Instagram. He went there, but he went with a couple of his people, and they all dressed up as characters. This is a proper roadman from Peckham that was dressed up as Piccolo. I couldn't tell it's a Dragon Ball Z movie. Because obviously I'm a DBZ fan myself.
What are you talking about?
He does so many similes and metaphors in his songs that include Dragon Ball Z characters. So that's another reason why I just enjoy the album. I like it when I can relate to the music in it. And
this is going to be
very good. I'm not going first. You go first.
I'll go first. And to be honest with you, right, like there are a couple of songs on it that I don't like. After Straight Murder, I think Hoochie's is pretty rubbish. And I think a couple of songs before Straight Murder, between I'm Working and Straight Murder, so tracks 12 and 13, they're very, very skippable. And there are maybe 1 or 2 tracks they're just average on there. Not every song is a banger, but there are a lot of very good songs on there. So for me, I'd probably give it. It's somewhere 3 or 4. It's definitely not a 5.
Go on. Yeah, there you go. Talk with your chest. You have to.
4.
I think that
4. Said it with my chest.
I'd probably give it a.
Wait, hold on. I want to hear Fear's rating. What's your rating?
I give it a 3.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I think it's a bit generous because there's not that many tracks I would listen to again on there, except for Debonair. I'll definitely be listening to again, but the rest of them, not so much.
One thing though, right, and I totally understand what you're saying, but I will also say sometimes with albums, the way that the album's put together, I don't think that counts with this album, just to be clear, but sometimes the way albums are put together, the songs do not work as singles, but they sound really good together as tracks on the album.
Yeah, but
so just saying that
I'm artist, I really enjoyed that as a whole project.
All right, cool. Let's do that. So I'm gonna give it a 4. I definitely felt it was an above average album. Like there's a lot of effort in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really enjoyed the production value. So yeah, it's a 4 for me.
Really?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that project, but that surprised me, in fact, because
do you want to intro
when I first listened to it, the immediate impression I got is, oh my gosh, this is the kind of album you listen to when you're driving fast in your car. Oh yeah, it's a Boy Racer album. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know the guy Dutchavelli's album? I can't remember. Tell me, what is it? Short and fed into the next one, like the flow, the vibe. It did get a little bit repetitive. Like the beats did sound quite similar on each track, but I actually felt like that added to it in a way as a whole project. If I listened to the singles, I think I'd get a bit bored, but again, as a whole, it worked really well and I really enjoyed it. More so than the Gigs one.
This project.
Okay, fair enough.
I agree with you. Like it did kind of get a bit samey in some moments. I feel like he could have been a bit more experimental with this, but overall, I did enjoy songs like 2 AM, the song with Ray Black, and his track with Millions. I thought those were really good tracks as well. for his first project, I think it's a very, very good effort. I look forward to seeing where he goes going forward, to be honest.
Yeah, so I don't really listen to Dutchavelli, so I went in not expecting much. But it was a very, very solid body of work, to be honest. I didn't find it boring, but like the others, I do feel like he played it a bit safe. I feel like he could have like pushed the envelope that little bit further, but it was a very good album. I don't really have much criticism. I like the length because it wasn't too long. I think if it was any longer, it would have got quite repetitive. But it's worth it, this, in my opinion.
I echo what everyone else said, that it did get repetitive. I think it was towards the beginning of the second half of the album. That's when it became repetitive. But then the tracks flow well and it keeps moving pretty quickly. Yes, the tracks are short, but the songs feel complete. They don't feel like it's just a case of just make this track short for the sake of, record sales or whatever. It just feels like the song served its purpose and then move on to the next one. So that is, I enjoyed it. But yeah, when it becomes repetitive, it makes you just lose interest in it very quickly. And I feel like by the end of the album, I didn't really care anymore. And so again, it's one of those ones, if they chopped it, made it a bit shorter, it would have been better. So maybe instead of being 16 tracks, it was like 13, 12, it would have been a better album. But no, that is a really solid project for first go. And my favorite track is probably, my standout song is probably
the Ray Black one was my
Chain Splash, to be honest with you. Although I did like when the Ray Black skirt on him. Skirt.
Yeah,
definitely.
Hard on Dutch's album, like as soon as it started. And it's funny because I listened to it obviously and compared it a lot to Giggs's, and you could really feel the South London there. So it was quite interesting to feel those two things. I felt like there was a lot of old school East London energy that Dutch brought to the table that I really wholly enjoyed,
And I feel like that's why I prefer Giggs' album more. Yeah, so
yeah,
I just prefer the sound more.
Okay, what are we rating this album, everyone? Why a 2 though? Two's below average.
I like Debonair enough to give Giggs' Offering 3. My favourite two top tracks on Dutchavelli is, number 1 was Darkest Moment, number 2 was I'll Call You Back. And I absolutely love those. But unless you're a boy racer, I just don't imagine sitting down to listen to this album on a regular basis. I just don't.
So there wasn't enough in it for you, basically?
No.
Okay, makes sense.
It was cool. Beats were heavy, but nah.
Okay, calm. Ollie, what are you saying?
Yeah, I think it's a 3 as well.
Cool. I'm gonna give it a 3 as well. Matt? Week, and then we can jump on some more topics. And I think this one is Smoke Boyz.
Yeah.
Above the Smoke? Cool. Who wants to take this one first? You know when I go...
You go for it, man.
You know what that means, right? When was the last time you heard that? Right. Oh, this isn't for me, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. I've always said it, like drill music, I'm just not of that generation, and this was super drillish. All the chingings, all the drillings, all the slash slap whap whap. catch a guy and clap.
I think you're like in your 50s or something. What the hell, man?
What was he saying?
No, sorry. I had to put
Seems
my
like
hearing aid back in. I like it. It slipped out.
Okay,
But what's it called? Yeah.
Speaking as if like you heard it stop and I can chop it.
That is top level banter. Nah, we're leaving all of this.
That is not right.
Nah, leave it.
Why are you
That
chopping
is-
that, bro? That's the bans, bro.
No, leave it in. I love dad jokes.
It's all
Leave
getting
it in.
chopped out, bro.
It's gonna be cold.
Let's
Okay.
chop this out because this is
I
ridiculous.
know 5'4", bro. We'll continue. Listen,
chopping
let
it
me
down.
take us back on track.
That's like when your granddad asked you to pour his
5, 4.
finger. Like, what was that?
Oh, yes. That's fine.
Alright, cool. So going back to Smoke Boyz, basically, yeah, it wasn't my sort of music. Standout song for me was Justin Bieber, which feels so weird to say, like, but tune it all sounded quite similar. There was a few tracks that had a change in pace. Flows all very similar throughout the album. Yeah, that's it from me, guys. You're not gonna get anything more. Matt, Ollie, Afi, who wants to take it from me?
I'll go next to continue the negative train. So not really a negative train, but I'm not really into drill either, and not really a Smoke Boyz fan. So for me, this wasn't really like a good listen, but I do appreciate that the quality of the music in terms of like production and stuff was good. I guess there was a tiny bit of subject matter there, but obviously if you're into that sort of stuff, I feel like it's gonna appeal to a lot of the younger people that are into that. But for me, I'm just not a fan of the music or the message or anything like that. It all felt quite repetitive to me as well. Just like one long ass track, and if I just hit skip, I'd be stuck in that same long track. But for me, my standout track was Justin Bieber as well. But I really tried to listen to this album. Like, I sat down, had the volume bare high, just killed me.
Glass of Henny.
Didn't even have that. I wanted to be of full body and mind whilst I listened to it, just to be fair. But
Strap and shank on each side.
It's I mean, there was a hype when the beat first came on, but it died down really fast because I started to read the lyrics, and it just wasn't for me.
I jump in now then. I feel like these guys, obviously, they're called Smoke Boyz now, used to be called Section Boys. I feel like they done really well coming from a difficult situation, and they made some good songs in their time. When they came out of Laka for a few years back, everyone loved that song. That's like one of the biggest songs of the summer when it came out. I remember that was just being played for a good 6 months by everyone. And I feel like they could have maybe gone on to become bigger than they were, but they had other issues that, like we said, with their manager that caused them to maybe not completely fulfill their potential as a collective. However, what I'm sure we'll see come from this is that some of the members of the group will go on to have really successful solo careers. In terms of this album here, I didn't think the album was amazing, but I felt like it was a good farewell for the group. I feel like each individual artist in the group managed to have a good amount of time displaying their skills. I also believe that I don't believe they put so much effort into the album that they'll be disappointed with how it came out. Not to say they didn't try. I just don't think to myself that this was them putting their whole soul on the record. But like I said, I believe that a few of them will have successful careers. So yeah, I feel like it's a decent album, and good luck to them in the future.
We still got Afia to go.
Oh no, I'm gonna.
So
sit
what do
this
you
one out.
what ratings do you give it, guys?
Oh, okay.
That's all good. So,
Oh, sorry. I think I didn't get a chance to listen to it, so
Wait, so you're rating it the same as Disney?
I'll start off. I give this one a 3 for me.
All right, say no more. Say no more.
Oh my
Say
god!
no more.
What?
Say no.
Bro, I gave Dizzy a 2. Dizzy's album was
That
shit.
is serious.
Okay, this is
going to be our topic. Why does Matt hate Dizzy?
Wow.
Where do you hate Dizzy by giving this? I want to know. I need some answers, Matt.
Why would I hate? I don't even know the guy. Why would I hate him? The only person that I genuinely hate, that I do not know, is Kanye West.
I'm going to interject and get us back in track. I'm dropping a 1 on this, guys. It's a 1, fam. It's a 1, mate.
I mean,
a 1. Wow.
No, 6ix9ine was
that's not a 1. That really isn't a 1.
you know,
I like 6ix9ine.
Wasn't a 1.
But 6ix9ine was better than it.
6ix9ine. He's cool. Well, his music's alright.
6ix9ine was better than it.
You lot are mental.
Let's not bring 6ix9ine onto this here.
6ix9ine was just doo-doo butter. That's what it was.
Bro, you know I don't like.
If you gave us a 2, I can understand. But to say 1, that is crazy, man. You're saying that they should not
No,
be
but I don't think it's just that. I think for me. Oh, see, I wasn't going to comment.
Okay, all right. Fair enough, then, man.
No, I didn't listen to.
Listen, speak your truth. Speak your truth. The world wants to know.
I think that they still have room to grow. Basically, they just need to mature their sound and everything, and just. That's it. That's all it is, really. It's not that they're not talented. They're definitely talented. You can see it's there, but they need the right
young
kind
men,
of
and I agree. There is definitely
team around them as well. I think so.
Yeah, I think
tell there's a little bit.
Anyway,
I say we just.
What's your rating then?
I think it gives it a 1. Wow.
A 2. You lot are too generous.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 1 as well.
You got to review. I mean, we can't give Busta Rhymes a 4 and then give this a 2. Pardon?
I've decided it's
the second half of the album might have been really good, so how can you give it a rating?
We're keeping it 100.
About 1.
That's what you guys want to call it, okay?
1.
Alright, cool. Enough dad jokes. Cool. Next one, I think is mandatory for this one.
Oh, no tears. No tears.
No, yeah.
No tears.
Don't tell Manny anyone saying he's gonna get it wrong.
You mean no tears? Yeah, well, you just like to butcher shit up in it, man. Fucking hell. I'm just trying to think, what? No tears. This is a rapper that I know reasonably well because he's a family member of mine. So I'm not even going to give it a rating.
I'll rate it.
I'll let you guys rate it.
I've listened to it quite a few times actually.
I'm sure you'll say there's a spot of nepotism in my rating. But anyway. In a year, I think it was around February time, March time, and basically it's a short EP. It's only 15 minutes long, and it's 5 tracks. I don't think every track on the project is amazing, but I feel like there's a good solid. Out of the 5, I really do like 4 of them. I feel like a couple of these songs will actually make really decent tracks to hear in a club as well. For example, I think Easy is a very good club track, and also Super Savage as well.
So I felt like there was a bit of. It was fresh. It wasn't like a generic sound you normally hear. So one of the tracks Matt mentioned, Easy. I believe that was a single he released for it, and. When I first heard it, I wasn't sure on it. But as you hear it more, it starts to grow on you. And that theme kind of follows through the album. You have to listen to it. And you start to appreciate it a lot more. There's a lot of depth in there. My favourite track is Hotels. I just found it kind of funny. You know what I mean? I find it kind of funny and I can believe what he's saying. But I feel like only Zan is like a nice look into the person. So I actually quite like that track as well. which I believe is the last track on the album. Yeah, it is. So
What's the album called?
I think the only track that
only sounds
I don't think is good is No Tears. But other than that, the rest of them I actually have played quite a lot, and I was playing it on my commute to work before lockdown hit. So yeah, I'm a fan of it. I think it's a 3.
Do you mind like breaking it down? Like, what genre? Like, do you know what I mean? What?
It's no genre. I have to listen to it. Like,
it's hard to really give it a genre because it kind of
Is
Is it within the realms of
genres.
hip hop or
You know, honestly.
Okay.
But it's like it does transcend. It's, if anything, you probably fit into a category more
like,
aligned with like the newer generation. And I'd probably say some of the tracks are very well like the TikTok generation as well.
To listen to. But you should just take it all in.
But not all of the songs are like that.
Look, I want to set a challenge to our listeners. Yeah, have a listen to Only Zans. Drop us a message. Let us know what you think. Yeah, would love to hear from you guys. Cool. So we've got enough time for one more topic. What? Let's just choose something random to talk about. But before we get into it, let's just cover socials again. Make sure you follow us on EarSauce _ on Instagram. Follow us EarSauce _ on Twitter.
Go back. And we briefly touched on this in our group chat, but I want to dig a bit deeper. Tyler, the Creator, versus Drake. Who's the better artist? Because
Tyler.
I mean, you can't just say it like that without like no argument.
Drake makes club bangers. Tyler makes creative music.
Drake makes creative music as well. What are you talking about?
Does he though?
Obviously all music is creative, but I mean that there's more, in my opinion, there's more thought put into the what Tyler actually wants to put into it as opposed to what's going to make him the most money. Do you get what I'm saying? Drake, to me, he's a money-making machine. He wants the awards. He wants the accolades. He's got a huge ego. You know, I think
you've got to frame it better than that. You can't just say Drake versus Tyler the Creator because there's way too many different comparison points. If we're going to be comparing who's the bigger artist, it's obviously Drake. If we're going to be like who's the better rapper, then there's a debate to be had here. A very good debate, in fact. And if we're going to be talking about who's the better artist all round, it's clearly Tyler the Creator because Tyler does everything himself, or at least he's capable of doing everything himself. And in his last album, Igor, he did do everything himself. Now Drake could never do that. So yeah, there's different ways of framing it. But if you're to ask me who I prefer, that's a difficult question. Up until Tyler's more recent work, I would definitely have said Drake.
Goblin Tyler, that's a hard
I feel like a
but when you drop Flower Boy,
more recent albums have been very good.
And become a lot more palatable. In fact, a lot more enjoyable to listen to, in my opinion.
You sort of aggressive, women being sexually aggressive in hip hop, and how you feel about it. Song and. No, not just Princess Nokia, but what's her name again? Miss La Familia.
Oh yeah,
I remember this debate came up,
and you guys were making some comments I thought were interesting, and I'd like you to expand on it a little bit for me.
Oh,
I would like to hear.
Don't say you guys. I never said anything about that, so don't say you guys. However, my general view is this. Right? I feel like in the music industry, women tend to be rewarded success-wise if they portray an image of being sexually aggressive or at least some sort of sexual specimen. Whereas as a guy, as a male rapper, you don't have to do that. You can have a male rapper that is completely out of shape, like Rick Ross, for example, or Gucci Mane back in the day. And it doesn't matter. They will still be successful. I guess maybe with that, It's where the guy has to appear to have a lot of money
I think
or
that trend
gangster ways about him. So maybe that's
that trend is changing. No
differential
disrespect to the Queen, but
whereas as a woman
isn't your
God.
average looking female artist in that respect. She's someone that's plus size, confident.
She raps too.
She raps, yeah.
She's very talented.
Is she a rapper?
I'm
not gonna lie to you.
No, that's disrespectful.
I can't say it because it isn't even about her size. It's about the way she carries herself. She does way too much. No, she does way too much, man. I don't care. She does way too much. Like, okay, if she was slim, right?
Yeah,
but
still
so
wouldn't
many
make it
women
okay
have done
for you to go to an
exactly
award
that.
show
Do you remember
and be
the
wearing
dress Jennifer
extremely
Lopez
revealing
wore when
outfits
she
with,
went with
basically
Diddy to that
nipples and
award
shit?
show, for example?
That's not okay.
No, listen.
Nah, I want to see Jennifer Lopez's nipples, but I've never seen them before.
Mate,
Never.
you're being disrespectful.
I've seen Lizzo's, man. Why have I seen Lizzo's nipples? Why?
Rihanna, we've all seen her breasts many times. No.
Because I thought it was
sheer.
Rihanna's
and you
nipples
can blatantly see
when the
her
fapping
entire
happened, all the eyebrow stuff.
You refuse. She's very unapologetic, and she's not the only one.
I've never seen that, but could you please send me a link?
Example,
I need to see that.
Cardi B,
Preferably
all of these female rappers.
Tonight.
On the nipples,
I haven't seen Nicki Minaj's tits either. I've never seen her nipples. I've never seen them. So I don't get it.
You're talking about the way she carries herself.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that I'm not talking about suggestion. I'm not talking about cleavage. I'm not talking about silhouettes. I'm not talking about nipple prints. I'm talking about actually seeing.
I don't think you'd feel the
Lizzo's
same way
nipples.
if you saw Jennifer Lopez.
Like when she's at an award show. Like that's not right. It's not right. But at the same time, I haven't seen them. So
go on, what do you guys think? You're quiet.
Well, how did you feel see Janet Jackson?
Okay, let me tell you something.
Janet Jackson was completely out of pocket for that shit. And she tried to say it was a wardrobe malfunction. That was ridiculous. Come on. Justin Timberlake clearly grabbed the whole breast, the whole titty.
And then look what he did afterwards.
Whatever that was.
No, but look what he did afterwards. What did he do? He sold her out and left her to take the majority of the flat.
Like, she shouldn't be doing that.
Isn't that interesting?
It was a wardrobe malfunction, wasn't it?
Aside, I just think, how does it?
It was a wardrobe malfunction, wasn't it?
How she carries herself.
Exactly.
How does she carry
bullshit,
herself?
but my point is that
I think she's a role model for young women.
She carries herself like someone has no decorum. That's how she carries herself.
Mate, she's not just. She doesn't just get naked. She's a performer. She plays instruments.
Just get naked.
You know,
just
she's a singer.
Naked.
She's worked hard to defeat like stereotypes to become successful in music. So I don't give a fuck. I rate her, and you can hate all you want because.
People will say about being body confident when you're overweight, right? And I don't see anything wrong with specifically being body confident. Like, I'm not saying you should be ashamed if you are a larger person. No. I've not said anything to suggest that. But my point here is that there's a difference between being body confident also and being irresponsible. If you are really insanely overweight, that's not something to be proud of. Like, because you're actually putting a strain on your body, on your ability to remain living. Like, you shouldn't be making it something to hope to be.
Can I just?
So I'm not.
I actually agree with that. I think
it's very irresponsible. It's not something you should be like. You should be proud of being message. Overweight.
There's
like,
there's a lot of health concerns around that sort of thing.
No, I think you guys. Sorry, I think you go first. So I don't want to talk over you, but
no, I also want to say, like, can I just point out the fact that we were talking about hypersexuality in female rap music, and we're now talking about Lizzo's body shape and size, and I think that really shows how we are still fixated on policing the size of women's bodies and stuff.
I don't think that's the case.
Especially black women.
Yeah. No, but no.
No. We were talking about the lyrics. Because I was having a discussion with you guys the other day.
Look at that blood
about
pressure.
hypersexual lyrics
look at that
in
diabetes.
female rap
I want
music.
some of that.
And I find personally that it's, because people talk about Cardi B, WAP, for example, being very vulgar and crude. But I find it quite nice to listen to because it taps into a side of women's sexuality, especially in minority communities, that isn't usually tapped into, right? Which is the more gritty, sort of assertive, aggressive kind of aspects of some women's sexuality. Not everybody is like that, and not everyone is like that all the time, but sometimes it's nice to have that outlet,
They sing like Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion. They managed to reclaim.
You mean when people say
the
moist
rap
and stuff?
to mean something completely
Wireless
different.
access
When I was a bit younger, I always thought. No, when I was really young, rap was how you use internet. That's how you connect to the internet on your phone back in the day. Then a rap became a gun, and then now rap means something completely different. So it's like, I don't know. If someone says grab the rap, like, I don't know if I'm gonna be going to prison.
So basically, it's all
killing someone,
aggressive
or going to prison for
So from my perspective,
but I'm going to prison somehow.
Talking about the two artists that you put into the group, I feel like I think it's the delivery in which it's done. So the one where the girl was in the car, I found that to be more gangster and like extremely hyper aggressive, and I just couldn't get on board with that.
That was Miss La Familia,
Yeah,
see if I can find the title.
I couldn't get on board with that. But then you put another one of her songs where she was singing rapping, and that was okay. But I think the delivery is what bothers me, and where she's portraying, like in that video anyway, like I'm picturing like some sort of mafia boss, like in a Rolls Royce, in the back seat, doing whatever she wants, and just like shelling people, like verbally, like dropping like hard bars. Like, I think we touched upon it at the start, but I expect like a certain level of authenticity. Now, not to say that what she's saying isn't true, it's just I find it hard to believe, and I struggle to get on board when people are like, it just feels like she's exploiting what's current.
Why do you feel like you find it hard to believe her raps?
I don't know. It's just something about the body language and the way it's done. It feels so forced and doesn't really feel natural. Like, it feels like, all right, I've got this car for the day. Let me just deliver this as hard as I can.
How do you know it's not your unconscious bias that isn't allowing you to perceive women as female bosses?
I don't. But I view Cardi B as a female boss. I view the same, up to a certain extent, Beyonce and a couple others. But it's just something about this one I just couldn't get on board with.
I think that's fair.
Alright, is that Cardi B hasn't always been as famous as she is now.
I follow that.
And a lot of people followed her before. Like, she had a big following, like in the hundreds of thousands, before she became a recording artist. And she used to post some really ratchet shit of her. Like, you see her videos of her fighting, videos of doing all sorts of like shit that kind of correlates to the music she makes.
Yep.
So when Cardi B says certain things, I believe it. Everything she says, I believe that she's lived it to a certain degree. Even like her lyrics are like on the proper filth tip, right? And talk about how she does all this nasty shit. Like, well, yeah, there's videos of her doing that stuff. And even when she's not even recording music, when she's just like on her Instagram and just like posting random stuff, like she's got that video where Offset sleeping, and she's like, I wanna suck your dick, no, like that's what she was saying. And I was like, well, this is really her, unless she's really just faking it now as well. Whereas some people, for example, Nicki Minaj, her lyrics don't necessarily match up to what she says. So even if you're going to be talking about the hypersexualization of women or whatever, at least the women should be keeping it real with themselves as well. Like, if they're going to be saying that they do X, Y, and Z in their songs, you probably shouldn't feel ashamed to show that part of your life in your social media as well. That's the reality.
warped view of female.
No, wait, because
Shut your mouth. Let me.
I want to hear what Manny has to say.
Yeah,
because I
Don't
have a comment
push
as
your
well.
warped unconscious bias onto me. If that's what you have, then that's you, bro. That's not me.
Like a lot. I said this in the group. It feels like record labels push harder on artists like Cardi B and etc. Artists that have mad sex appeal over artists like Rhapsody, and I believe that's because sex sells and sex always has. Yeah, interject.
These rappers that are going on as like girl bosses, yeah, female bosses, yeah. How many, like, we all come from backgrounds where we are in the hood or not far from the hood as we grew up, right? Now, how many women you see growing up that were actually mad sexy and really had that sort of like, you know, Cardi B, Nicki Minaj, Steph London sort of flavor to them, and were some sort of boss on their own right? Like, or that, you know what I mean? They kind of ran things. Like, for me, my only experience of women that were kind of gang like that, yeah, they were like Mandem. They were butch. They were never like proper hyper feminine and running things away. Like, I never ever witnessed that. I'm not saying it didn't exist.
For me, the point of
but it's like I feel like it's difficult for them both to exist.
She doesn't
You
have
can't
to
be like
emulate masculinity in order to be those things.
That missed my issue. Her thing in the video was she was emulating.
No,
like,
they don't. But you're not gang though, innit? That's one point I'm making to you.
Not for.
But then you go into the idea of what exactly is masculinity. Because sitting in a car and rapping, why is that a masculine thing?
I think it's the way she was sitting. So one leg up, a lot of the finger movements. Yeah, like I was just like even down to like face actions that she was doing. Like
a lot of the things
just. I would.
But what you really want to say is it wasn't ladylike.
I wouldn't say it's not ladylike. There's nothing wrong with not being ladylike, but it was. It just felt. Okay, I'll accept that, but that's not what I was looking for.
No, because
That's it.
can I make the comment I wanted to make?
Yeah,
See, for me, music like this, and I think I explained this to you guys, like when you're getting ready to go out with your girlfriends and stuff, you might put this kind of music on, and it is hyper aggressive sexually and things like that. But you're going out on a girls' night.
If any girl tried to get jiggy with me,
women have been listening
to that sort of music,
men
I'm putting on my clothes and I'm going home.
Same music
I'm going home.
Industry for decades. You're always gonna hear about the rappers getting sex from various women, explicitly explaining the kind of sex they get. She gave me head in the car. She gave me head in the studio. She did this. She did that. Dutchavelli was talking about. Can I get some head and a good sleep or something on one of his tracks? Do you know what I'm saying? So why is it that when a woman does that, it's you're not as comfortable with it and you find it's emulating something men do?
I kind of disagree because you got artists like Kia who made that controversy.
Kai, yeah.
You got Lil Kim,
my back.
You got Trina. You got there's nothing that was on my head that I've forgotten. You've even got to a certain extent Erykah Badu. You got all of these female artists that are doing these kind of things, but they deliver it in a better way. And it's okay. So I can listen to Lil Kim, Foxy Brown's the other one I was going to say. I can listen to these female artists talk these things and it's okay. It's just something about her rubbed me the wrong way. And then there was another artist you put in, Princess Nokia. She was like overly talking about, I'm guessing it's one of her insecurities about her body. And that was fine.
With my small titties and my fat ass, something like that, she was saying.
But like
with my small titties and my big belly.
It was like 3 tracks and she doesn't really have a big belly, but she's talking about insecurities. But I could appreciate that because like if she's insecure about it, just owning it and bringing light to it is probably going to be empowering to females that feel the other way, because on social media a lot of people have like fake body parts and girls be like, oh, why don't I have that? I want to be like that. That obviously attracts to guys. But she's coming from her perspective and she has like a tomboy look. So the whole image and the lyrics will fit one another. So that I was cool with. I didn't mind that. I thought that was quite cool. But Miss La Familia, it just, I don't want to sound sexist or anything. It just like, it wasn't adding up. And it's the same kind of feeling I got when I listened to 6ix9ine, and you look at him, you listen to what he's saying, and it just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. So like, even if what you're saying isn't true, I just want like a shred of realism if you're going to be talking like in that sort of way. And I just didn't feel like any of that was true. I feel like if a bad situation happened, maybe there's on a video shoot and someone was affiliated with his gang and beef kicked off, is she still going to be like on the front lines, giving it that masculine demeanor, that masculine approach towards it? Like, is she going to run back?
And to echo what Ollie's saying, most of the time when you have a woman that talks like that, it's because their guy is gone, not because they themselves put in work. So they would run them out knowing that when they call their man or their brother or whatever, they're going to come and regulate. But they themselves aren't going to go pick up a rap, and put in work.
But like, it's nothing against her. Like I said, the other song
don't quote me on this because
more
I don't want
singing
this
and it was a bit softer. That was okay to listen to, but the other one, like when she was just like trying to rap hard and gritty, I personally couldn't get on board with it. But if other girls do it,
I think we can't deny that there's definitely a market for this, though.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
Look,
because one of the tunes had millions of views.
What is the actual, like? I want to hear from a female perspective, just to summarize this all up.
So there's a tune in particular with Shabo and Miss La Familia, Bonjour Cavat, and I love it. I have been banging this tune all week because, for me, I find it quite empowering. It's something different that works for me in different contexts. Like I said, if I'm getting ready to go out and I want something that feels a bit more aggressive before I leave the house, I'm going to go raving or something, I'll listen to something like that and I enjoy it.
What do you think guys need to understand about that type of music?
It's an expression of a part of being a woman, you know, and our sexuality. It's not the whole thing, but it's definitely a part.
No, like you're being bad man.
I didn't hear it.
Is it like Sasha Fierce? I'm a single lady.
He said it'd be like Sasha Fierce. You know, Beyonce's alter ego on that album, Jeff.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, you know. Yeah, well, point being, I think it has a place in the world, and I think it's something especially minority women need, because it is a way of expressing, you know, our sexuality that the men in our community already have and we don't. You guys get to listen to that music all the time, but we don't, so I appreciate it.
I understand that, but I feel like there's been a market ever since Lil' Kim. And other artists have stepped into that. I feel like just this artist's way of doing it, but I think she needs to find a better way of doing it. Because even Cardi B can do it.
I think
I mean, again, go on.
I feel like I understand both points, right? I understand Afia's point and I understand your point, Ollie. Like, it doesn't feel real for this particular artist, but you have nothing against females making this music. And I think Afi, understand your point. Like, there's a time and place for this music for all females, and men just need to get out of the way and make space for it. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'm all for that.
I agree. 100%. I just wanted to get you guys' opinion and have a little discussion about it and see, when I press you, what else you'll say. Do you know what I'm saying?
There'll be plenty of opportunity for that in upcoming pods. Look, I just want to say thank you to all you listeners that have been with us at the start of our journey, and we look forward to connecting with many more of you listeners going forward. Once again, I'm going to drop the socials. It's EarSauce _ on Instagram, EarSauce _ on Twitter. Go for it.
Can I shout out Princess Nokia? Can I shout out Shabo and Miss La Familia and to
all your gal pals?
I like very much. Pardon?
All your gal pals.
Yeah, that's it. And also Jam Billion and Bait Nate, who I'll be talking about soon.
Ooh, I want to do a shout out as well. Okay, it's not a shout out. I want to do like a recommended listen. This is a song from the 60s. It's way, way different to what we talk about. But I feel like everybody should spin some Sam Cooke. You should know.
Oh,
I feel like that song is very apt for what's happening right now.
is that a change is going to come?
Yeah.
Boom. And on that note, I feel like we've smashed it.
EarSauce.